Hey friends, so earlier while I was recording, I got a notification that was basically like a little gift from the content gods that said Gypsy Rose Blanchard has done an interview with Rolling Stone magazine. So I decided that I would read it live with y'all. I'm going to try to record this in one go. So if you see jump cuts, it's because I have allergies and I am not subjecting y'all to that. Okay, let's go to the story. Gypsy Rose Blanchard is ready to tell her story, then leave it all behind. She spent 7 years in prison for the murder of her abusive mother. With the publication of a new memoir, the true crime darling wants to set the record straight. I don't know about that. So it looks like they interviewed her right after Thanksgiving, because it starts out saying, sitting in a white armchair on the Sunday morning after Thanksgiving, the soft bayou light streaming into her family home, something is bugging Gypsy Rose Blanchard. It feels like a circus, she tells Rolling Stone, in her distinctive high-pitched voice. All around her there are family photos and reminders of people who love her. There's a sign across from her that reaffirms this. Family, a little bit of crazy, a little bit of loud, and a whole lot of love. How love of them. But she keeps no pictures of her mother around. Yeah. Blanchard, 33, spent more than 8 years incarcerated for her involvement in the 2015 murder of Claudine Dee Dee Blanchard. Since she was released last year, the attention has been constant. I'm not an animal in a cage, she says. Oh, poor Gypsy. Blanchard's private life is better now in the small bayou town where she lives, about an hour outside New Orleans. She is staying at the home of her father, Rod, and her stepmother, Christy, and is experiencing a lot of new things. Grocery shopping, paying bills, doing laundry. Oh, yes, I'm sure, those new things and drinking enough water and taking her vitamins, my God, y'all, how could she do anything else? How could we even expect anything else from her? Okay, anyway. She just returned from Florida, where she spent the holiday with her boyfriend, Ken Urker, and swam in the ocean for the first time. Did she just tell us that she swam in the ocean for the first time in California and it was a big freaking... Did she... Y'all, I laughed so hard I got myself into a sneezing fit. Is she just trolling? Okay, she says, let me try to read some more of this shit. Okay. I got water in my mouth and was like, oh, it's salty. I didn't expect that. She said it in almost childlike tone. The couple who first met through a pen pal program in 2017 and reconnected after her release, that's a way to put it, is expecting their first child, a daughter, in January. Blanchard hopes she can go to cosmetology school later on to become a hairdresser. Can y'all imagine getting your hair done by Gypsy Rose Blanchard? Yeah, that'd be weird. And also, this is Gypsy contradicting herself again, because wasn't the whole dang problem with her getting a job that, she couldn't even do photography in prison because people want to talk to her too much. She'll be mobbed. She can't be around people. She can't just go work at Dollar General or Walmart. Hairdressing is with the public. Okay. Next paragraph. But her life is anything but normal. In the near decade since her then boyfriend, Nick Godejohn, fatally stabbed Dee Dee Blanchard at her Springfield, Missouri home, Blanchard's saga has become fodder for everything from long-form podcasts to prestige documentaries to a scripted Hulu series starring Patricia Arquette and Joey King, which she still says she hasn't watched. To be quite honest, I didn't know how big the story was until I got out of prison. Bullshit. She did the deal with HBO while she was in prison. She had Rachel Garlick running her social media while she was in prison. I read those emails to y'all just the other day from 4 months after she married Ryan, where she was talking about being irritated that flashing her status as a public figure of inspiration wasn't really doing anything for Ryan's family. She knew, Lord God, she just lies. Also, the mention of Joey King, we're going to talk about that in the book review. There's some stuff coming up there. She said some shit about Joey King. Okay, next paragraph. While Goda John was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without possibility of parole, Blanchard was given 10 years in prison for second-degree murder and was released last year after serving about 7. 8.5, but okay. She has spent an additional year and a half. She spent an additional year and a half incarcerated waiting for trial. So that's where the 8.5 comes in. Gotcha. Since then, she's been torn between reclaiming her life story and coming to grips with the facts that some of her legions of followers might be paying attention for the wrong reasons. You've always got attention for the wrong reasons. You got attention for faking serious illnesses with your mother, and then you got attention for murdering her. That's it. I don't want people to follow me because of the crime I committed, Blanchard says. I don't want to have fans because they feel like what I did was right. Well, when Rod and Christy go out there saying stuff like, Didi got what she deserved, and you do all these Lifetime series and everything, celebrating your new life and your release, what do you expect people to think? I don't think she actually cares. I think she actually wants people to think what she did was right. She just knows that that's acting that way is not going over well. Okay, next paragraph. Dressed in a slouchy yellow sweater, she hands me her phone. The left sleeve is pulled up to reveal a tattoo of a husky on her forearm, with Urker having a matching one. Euchre, whatever. The screen shows a photo taken without Blanchard's consent of her in the waiting room of the OBGYN's office with Urker, which was subsequently posted to a Reddit forum dedicated to dragging her. Probably GRB skeptic, I'm guessing. On Facebook, she shows me there's a photo someone snapped of Blanchard talking to a teller at a bank, along with comments trolling her appearance, her relationship, and the crime itself. Is that the photo of her and Mike Stanfield together? Because it's weird, you know. I mean, she's paying him to manage her, so I guess it's not weird they would be at a bank together. She might be withdrawing some of her blood money to give to him. But yeah, anytime Gypsy Rose and Mike Stanfield are pictured together, people are going to talk about the murder. That's what they know y'all for, especially y'all together. When she was released in December 2023, Blanchard believed that she could and would live a normal life. No, you didn't. You knew that you were going to have Lifetime following you around. And then I started to understand that is not reality. Instead, her reality is much more complicated. It's why, she says, she felt compelled to tell her story in full. How many times are you going to tell your story in full, Gypsy? We heard this, and you change it every time. And every time you say something like, I've never been completely honest about this, but I'm going to be now. Yeah, nobody believes that. All right. On December 10th, Blanchard will release her memoir, My Time to Stand, which details her mother's suspected case of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Oh, it's interesting that they've started saying suspected case, not that she definitely has it. And the abuse Gypsy suffered as a result. Her mother, for instance, subjected her to endless medical procedures for diseases she didn't have. We saw Gypsy's drawing of her scars, y'all. It also covers the family dysfunction and trauma she experienced as a child. You're going to tell us more shit than what you already did in that first one? Like, remember, y'all, I skipped over some of that. From what I just skipped over. From her grandfather's sexual abuse of both her and her mother to the lies her mother told the government agencies and charities to scam benefits, including a house from Habitat for Humanity. She talks about the men, including Goda John, with whom she began relationships online, and the multiple attempts she made to escape from her mother's home. Ooh, is Gypsy about to tell us about Dan for the first time? I don't know what Ken and Ryan all think about that. All the while, Didi was godlike to her. Her sole caretaker was always hovering. Gypsy Rose will never find true love, Blanchard claims her mother would tell her. Gypsy Rose will never find happiness. Ooh, because she was a witch. Gypsy was a Disney princess. The memoir's release comes at a time of radical change for Blanchard. In the past year, she divorced her ex-husband, whom she married in 2022, became pregnant, and had to learn life skills. Yeah, she had to learn to take vitamins and drink water, apparently. like balancing a budget that she was never taught growing up. Well, oh yeah, I'm sure Gypsy's out there balancing budgets. What do y'all think? While Blanchard's story has been across numerous platforms, she says the memoir is the first time she has full control of her narrative and the events leading up to and after the murder. Okay, what was that book you and Melissa Moore wrote then? What was Prison Confessions? What was Life After Lockup? Let's see. After years of trying to move away from the crime, she is returning to the scene in her memory and in her own words. How has she ever really tried to move away from it, y'all? An author's note in the beginning of the book says that while some of Blanchard's memories have faded, the memoir is true to my memory, and these memories have shaped my perceptions, many of which are also shared here. So even if it's wrong, it's what do y'all think? How do you interpret that? Okay. The book itself outlines the story of a young, poor girl growing up in Louisiana and Missouri, bound to a single mother who made Blanchard think that it was them against the world. To win, Dee Dee had to lie, cheat, and steal, with Blanchard as an accomplice to her mother's fraud and a victim of her abuse. She worked with two co-writers for it, Melissa Moore and Michelle Matroscani? Somebody please correct me in the comments. Tell me the phonetic way to pronounce that lady's name. I don't want to be disrespectful. Who began working with her when she was still in prison and uncertain of an early release. She's lived a lot of life, a life of ups and downs, but more ups than downs, says her stepmother, Christy, who's been married to her father, Rod, for 25 years. She's doing all the things her mom said she couldn't do, falling in love, getting married, getting divorced, reuniting with the love of her life, having a child, and even cutting grass and taking out the garbage. Those are things she couldn't do. Y'all think Gypsy's mowing and taking out the trash? Oh, since her conviction, she's appeared on The View, Dr. Phil, The Kardashians, with both The Cut and Slate dubbing her America's sweetheart. In the process, she's become a polarizing figure. Her supporters maintain she is a survivor who done her time and should be able to live a private life. On TikTok and Reddit, her detractors loudly flood the platforms with a mix of legitimate criticism, conspiracy theories, unflattering memes, calling Blanchard a liar and a grifter who is profiting from her crime. Well, I mean, facts are facts, y'all. The memoir is also getting review bombed on sites like Goodreads with 1-star ratings before anyone has read a page. This reality can be depressing for Blanchard, who is preparing for possible protesters at a book signing event in New Orleans later this month. She has publicly disavowed what she did to her mother, as well as supporters who feel like killing her mom was somehow the cool thing to do. But each time someone secretly takes a photo of her in public or posts a video slamming her, she wonders if there is any path toward a normal life, or if she's even capable of living such a life by the time she becomes a mother of her own. When people come up to me and are like, I don't blame you, I would have done the same thing, I'm disgusted, she says. How do y'all supporters of her feel about that? She finds y'all disgusting. I don't think she actually finds y'all disgusting, but she feels the need to say that to the world in Rolling Stone. It's not like I look back on my past and I'm proud of what I did. I'm very ashamed of it. So I honestly get offended whenever someone says things like that to me because they are missing the whole point. Oh, really? Dee Dee screams. Rolling Stone has a typo. It's spelled scrims. S-C-R-E-M-S. They'll probably have this corrected by the time I get screenshots and edit. Dee Dee screams, stay with Blanchard. So does the total silence that followed the murder. It wasn't really silence because she had sex with Nick right afterwards. Unless they were very, very quick. To this day, I have never seen the crime scene pictures, she tells Rolling Stone. I heard her scream, but the aftermath of what happened is unknown to me. Y'all believe that? I don't. When she was recording the audiobook in her memoir, Blanchard broke down, recalling her breaking point leading to the death. Dee Dee lied to doctors and pushed for an exploratory surgery on her larynx, which could have potentially silenced her voice, literally, forever. To Blanchard, it felt like her mother was lying to doctors as a way to cut her daughter's throat. That's the first time we've ever heard it described that dramatically. Interesting. I started to think if nothing happens, how old will I be until this stops? Will I be in my 40s? Will I be in my 50s? Will I die? She says, this was the moment when I was like, okay, something needs to happen right now. Yeah, Gypsy, you needed to run away. You needed to run away. And not just to Dan's and let Dee Dee talk you into coming back because you really didn't want to leave Missouri. You just wanted to be with Dan, not with Dee Dee. You could have easily got away if you could have let go of Missouri and Dan. Just facts. She struggled, recounting how she lay in a fetal position with her hands pressed over her ears as Godejohn repeatedly stabbed Dee Dee as she called out for her daughter. In that moment, Gypsy couldn't think about the years of abuse she suffered. She could only focus on her breathing. For a while, Blanchard had a recurring nightmare that had her reliving her mother's murder each night as an observer witnessing the crime. Well, the story that came out, I believe, in court, which is taken as more true than a Rolling Stone article because you can actually be put in jail for perjuring yourself in court, was that she was shaving her legs in preparation to have sex with Nick, shaving her legs and her other parts in preparation to have sex with Nick immediately after the murder while Dee Dee was being stabbed. So, yeah. I didn't want to make Dee Dee's death the sole point of the book, but I did want readers to understand that there is a level of trauma. It's not something that happens and then you just go back to your daily life and you're fine. It's something that doesn't go away. Well, Dee Dee went away. In the book, Blanchard examines her mother's motivations, particularly how Dee Dee was keenly aware that she was creating a world of lies and lore from an early age. I heard from her brothers or sisters that she was the kind of black sheep. She just didn't quite fit in, Blanchard says. There were certain aspects of her personality that were manipulative and controlling, but there wasn't enough awareness at the time in the 80s and 90s about mental health issues. So it just very much went undetected. Now, that's an interesting thing for her to say because do y'all remember that YouTube comment that Gypsy Rose made whenever she briefly had her YouTube channel where someone said something about advocating for people and they were implying Nick, and Gypsy Rose went off about how she wants to advocate for people who are so disabled, so challenged that they can't even speak or take care of themselves and blah, blah, blah. And that's who I want to advocate for. Like, oh man, she was pissed off. Well, she came out of prison saying she was going to advocate about Munchausen by proxy, and that is an invisible mental illness. She just talked here about how Dee Dee had an invisible mental illness. So, her wanting to advocate for people who with actual physical needs like the ones she pretended to have, that's not what you said when you come out. You said you wanted to advocate for Munchausen by proxy, which is an invisible mental illness like Nick has. Just something to think about, y'all. Okay. I asked Blanchard, who admits in the book that she was taught to live a life of deception, the greatest lie that Dee Dee told her. This is going to sound a little harsh, Blanchard says, but I think the greatest lie she ever told was that she loved me. I don't think that was a lie. I think Dee Dee was severely messed up, and I do think that many of the things that she did to Gypsy were abusive. I know a lot of people don't agree. That's fine. You don't have to. That's just how I feel. But I don't think for a second that Dee Dee actually didn't love Gypsy. I think that, she was willing to throw a lot of things that Gypsy desired under the bus, like normality and things like that, for what she wanted, which was to not have to work and take a lot of trips with Gypsy. But I don't think that she just actually didn't love Gypsy. I don't. Matroschiani, one of the memoir's co-writers, understood early on that Blanchard did not want to make the book a justification for murder as a response to lifelong physical, mental, and emotional abuse. This is a young woman who is really trying to make sense of what happened, and why things happened the way they did, and how things are not black and white. It's very hopeful. It's dark, but it's hopeful. Blanchard knows she's not alone in the morbid club of people who murdered family members that they claim abused them. She hopes the Menendez brothers, who are serving life in prison without the possibility of parole for the 1989 murder of their parents, are granted freedom. A resentencing hearing for the brothers is scheduled in January. I feel like they have paid their dues to society. 30 years is a long time. I feel like I'm one of those people that feels like they did their time for the crime. Let them have their freedom. I am in support of anyone that has been a victim of abuse like that, because it's not something anyone should ever have to go through. Now, I know a lot of creators think that Gypsy is going to be super pissed if the Menendez brothers get out and take attention away from her. There is a point to that, because Gypsy does not like having attention taken away from her. But my personal opinion has been that she would probably be happy, because Gypsy likes for murdering her parents to be normalized, I think. Like I talked about the other day in the dramatic review, the only time that she's ever really done advocacy work where it seemed like she actually gave a shit about what she was advocating for was whenever she talked about Amelia Byrd. She wants people who murdered their parents to get free because it helps normalize her, is what I think. And she thinks the more that her crime is normalized, the less backlash she'll have. And then maybe she can get back on TikTok, get back on YouTube, blah, 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 by the time she's off parole. What do y'all think? That's my prediction. Okay. It's a little after 9 a.m., and for now, the house, which is covered in portraits of the family, including pregnancy photos of a smiling Blanchard and Urker basking in the joy and golden hour lighting, is relatively quiet. Later, the family will watch the Saints play the Rams and put up Christmas decorations. White stockings already hang above the fireplace. In the coming days, the TV crew will arrive to shoot the second season of her Lifetime reality show, Gypsy Rose, Life After Lockup. She's planning to pre-sign hundreds of books ahead of the event in New Orleans, where online critics who don't want her to profit off her past say they're threatening to protest. Nobody's ever come up to me with anything negative to say, Blanchard says. I doubt that. Okay, I just got to say something real quick, where it said that they're going to watch the the Saints versus the Rams. That's kind of funny, because y'all know Gypsy, her whole thing is Louisiana and Missouri. The Saints are the New Orleans Saints, the Louisiana football team, and the Rams are currently the Los Angeles Rams, whatever, something like that. But they are originally the St. Louis Rams. They are left due to some absolute shit shenanigans from Stan Kroenke, fuck Stan Kroenke. But so it's a little bit of a Louisiana, Missouri thing going on there. I found that kind of interesting. I'm sure it's not lost on Gypsy. Okay. Leaning back in her green recliner, Christy succinctly guesses why none of the online hate shows itself in person. They don't have the balls. Blanchard maintains that she doesn't see herself as famous and never sought out attention. Why do we even sign those contracts with Lifetime and HBO and blah, blah, blah? Why did you even go on those shows if you weren't seeking out attention? She can talk endlessly about how the guilt and shame and responsibility for her mother's murder weigh on her, but that still doesn't deter some people from approaching the person they see as TikTok famous and saying they support her because she helped kill her mom. It leaves her in no man's land, appreciative of support, but decrying the catalyst of why some of her fans are there in the first place. Basically, she doesn't like anybody. She doesn't like the people who support her. She doesn't like the people who are against her. Who the hell does Gypsy Rose like? I don't think it's Rod and Christy. Does she really like the men that she gets obsessed with? Does she really like Ken, Ryan, Nick, any of them? I don't know. Dan? Maybe. There's Gypsy Rose Blanchard from the media and documentaries, and then there's the Gypsy that my family knows, that my partner knows, that I know. They are two in the same body, but I just kind of feel like nobody knows the real me. That's funny. What about your best friend, Bree? Oops. Blanchard knows that some people will never let her live down her sins or the sins of her mother. She says that she recently tried to volunteer for Habitat Humanity, which built and gifted the home to Dee Dee after the mother and daughter lost their home to Hurricane Katrina. But Blanchard says the organization declined her offer, in part because Lifetime wanted to film the experience for the reality show. She can't stop talking about Habitat for Humanity and the fact that, they wouldn't let her film. I did express that I would like to make amends for what my mom did, and I got rejected, she tells me. I found that not everybody forgives. A spokesperson for Habitat for Humanity did not respond for requests for comment. Yeah, I bet they didn't. They don't want nothing to do with her shit. She also understands that there appears to be a disconnect between saying that she wants a private life and a quiet life with her burgeoning career as a social media influencer and TV reality star. She just said career as a social media influencer, even though she announced that she's completely off TikTok. Well, I guess this recorded, Thanksgiving? Was she off TikTok yet at Thanksgiving? And that announcement happened. Oh, help me out, y'all. Okay. Blanchard has recently stayed in the headlines on gossip sites thanks to her posting the results of a paternity test to prove Urker is the father and quell rumors that the child was her ex's. It's how it is right now, she says. I don't think the public will ever let me fade into obscurity altogether. I think there will always be curiosity about what I'm doing in my life, and I have to come to accept it. Stop doing TV shows. The curiosity will fade. Stop publishing memoirs over and over. The curiosity will fade. Stop doing interviews. The curiosity will fade. Especially stop going live and acting really ghetto and threatening and being like, best believe I won't always be on parole. Yeah, don't do that. But after the show is finished filming what she says will be the last season, oh, yeah, believe that, Blanchard wants to disconnect and plan for her exit from the public eye. That off-ramp includes backing away from her public social media accounts, which she says she only uses for promotion these days, as well as raising her daughter, whom she and Urker plan to name Aurora. I've already told you all my thoughts on that. Look for my video. She eventually wants to get her own place and be closer to Urker, who lives in New Orleans. Blanchard is also taking driver's education, which terrifies her. I've heard that that's a thing with a lot of people who come out of prison because of just you haven't been in a car in so long, moving that fast. Like, yeah, if you're not daily accustomed to it, that's understandable. I'm very scared to drive because I'm like, what if I hit someone and it turns into a whole big thing and I go back to prison? I need to be responsible enough as a mom to do that. Oh, okay. So it wasn't a normal thing. It was Gypsy making it all about her. All right. As part of her consideration of motherhood, Blanchard must confront what she plans to tell her daughter about Dee Dee. Whether it's on TikTok, the book, or her nightmares, her mother's murder remains. When the time comes to talk to her daughter about who her grandmother was and what happened to her, Blanchard wants there to be no more lies. I feel like the book is a nice segue into when Aurora is older and people might give her shit or bully her over. In essence, this book is for her. This is so she can have a place of comfort that is safe to her. Y'all just said it was dark. Blanchard's relationship with her mother was based on lies. Now the adult, she plans to tell Aurora the truth and about how every choice she made in her life, whether it was right or wrong, but has been with the hope of having her own daughter. Let me reread that. I tripped up a little bit. Blanchard's relationship with her mother was based on lies. Now the adult, she plans to tell Aurora the truth about how every choice she made in her life, whether it was right or wrong, has been with the hope of having her own daughter. Well, that's what we've all been saying recently, that Gypsy has always been obsessed with having a baby, and she's wanted to name it Aurora ever since they lived in Aurora. That's a little creepy that she just came right out and admitted it to the Rolling Stone. Also, it reminds me of Dee Dee at the American Cancer Society thing that Gypsy Rose was singing Angels Among Us at, where Dee Dee was like, that's the reason I was born, to be your mama. I don't know. Just reminded me of it a little bit. Okay, I think we're at the last paragraph here, y'all. Where do I go from here is constantly what I'm asking myself, because I'm trying not to look back. I'm always like, this is what happened. Now, what do I have to live for? Oh my God, what do y'all think? I'm actually blown away. I knew it was, Gypsy Rose is going to be hilarious, going to have some lies. But first, right off the bat, like, another first ocean experience? What? Oh, anyway, tell me in the comments, y'all. The true crime